Okay, hello and welcome to anyone who doesn't know me. My name is Taryn Starr. This is Benison Kingdom Network, and today I decided to bring you a story that is near and dear to my heart as a former athlete. And we are now seeing what I am calling the uprising of the female athletes. So what we're dealing with in today's world is working with a lot of transgender athletes moving into female sports. It's been happening for the past year or so, and the uprising has finally begun. So women are finally starting to find their voices, step out, speak up, sue governments, sue school boards, go to school board meetings and talk about it. So let's talk about that. So there's a few different situations that have happened across the board up till today, but there's a few that I want to highlight for you just to show that this is not just a one and done sort of issue. This is happening all over America, all over the United States. There are people rising to the occasion and saying, this is not right. Biologically, you cannot undo a male becoming a young man. You can't undo puberty. So there's a few situations that this is happening right now, but a few that I'd like to just bring to everyone's attention is number one, there's recently a big growth of a movement called Save Women's Sports. It's primarily happening in California. So in California, there is a women's prayer group that actually began saying that they were being harassed by pro-trans activists as they were doing a Save Girls Sports protest. And the funny thing about this was they were literally praying. That's all they were doing. So it's a women's prayer group. They got together, formed a little circle, were trying to film content, and basically said that they were being harassed by pro-trans activists. So let's take a look. Fox News reported on this. Fox News on their sports section said a few things about this, but one of the quotes they had was from the Empire chapter president Tori Hitchcock, and she said this, quote, members of the pro-LGBTQ group started heckling and harassing the people in line who were speaking in opposition to their values. So in other words, anyone who is speaking from a Christian point of view or saying we don't want transgender athletes. So to continue on, some of these adult protesters were even coming up to the young girls. So we're talking girls in high school. They're very, very young at this protest. And they were going to be speaking and yelling at them close to their face. So this is basically adults who were pro-trans coming up to young women who were there to pray. They weren't even really openly protesting, who were there to pray and screaming in their faces and calling them horrendous names. These are children that we are dealing with, but there are adults who are going against them. So that's just one example, but I have a few more examples for you just to get an idea of where all of this is coming from, what is happening with the female sports. So one of the things that has come up as well is there was recently a school board meeting in Riverside Unified School District. It is in California, that's held in Riverside, California. And at this particular school meeting, a number of parents came because a lot of their girls were wearing these Save Girls Sports t-shirts to their school. And it's basically a silent protest. They're just wearing this t-shirt, and the school was putting tape on their t-shirts and not allowing them to wear the shirts at school. And eventually it became so prevalent, there were so many girls coming in with these t-shirts that the school board gave up. So the parents showed up at the school board, and this is what was reported. So again, this is Fox News on sports. They were reporting on this school board meeting. Quote, the meeting came after weeks of buildup as hundreds of students at Martin Luther King High School and other schools in that same district wore t-shirts against the school's wishes. Hundreds of students have rallied to wear the t-shirts every single Wednesday, and many of them were placed in detention for wearing them until the school gave up disciplining in the first week of December 11th. And to me, this is a huge win. I'm like, yes, they gave up disciplining them. That's how this should be, because that is your right to protest. It is, in fact, an American right that you do have the right to protest. And it's interesting that we see a lot of protests that are even loud, have a lot of insults, have a lot of things going on. But as soon as a prayer group or as soon as we try to stand for something that is close to truth happens, we're not allowed to protest. So I just think this is a really, really important story for this point in time because there's a number of other things that are happening. We had a recent volleyball incident. There was a young woman who was literally given a traumatic brain injury because a transgender, so a boy, on the other team in high school. So these are minors. This is a girl in high school. Her career was ended because he hit the ball so hard straight into her face that it gave her a traumatic brain injury. These are real things that are happening, and it could be your daughter. These are really, really important things to be aware of. And if you have a school or if you know of a school that is allowing transgender athletes, I would just ask you to think about that for a moment. There are two more really important things that I want to bring up as well. The protests are not just happening in schools. UFC, so your actual fighting champions, there are fighters who are, female fighters who have been reigning champions, even for, in some cases for years, who are literally stepping down and saying, we will not fight a transgender athlete. So just taking a look at this next one. Advocate.com reported, and this is a left-leaning source, they said UFC champion, so Ultimate Fighting champion, women's bantamweight leader, Ronda Rousey, who was undefeated. This is an incredible fighter. She was undefeated in her last 10 professional fights. If you know anything about UFC, 10 is an incredible number. She's undefeated. And she told TMZ that she could, quote, knock out anyone in the world. I love this girl. She's awesome. But she would not fight a transgender woman. And this is why. Quote, it is a case-by-case scenario thing, Rousey explained. After squaring off against the trans fighter Fallon Fox, I've tried to research a lot. I feel that if you go through puberty as a man, it's not something that you can reverse. There is no undo button on that. And that, at the end of the day, I think is the unifying statement. Biology cannot be reversed. It does not matter how many things you cut off your body. If you have a Y chromosome, you are going to present masculine. You are going to have bigger muscles. You are going to have more upper body strength. And as a fighter, that is everything. But this isn't the only fighter that we're dealing with. So fighter Fallon Fox is a transgender fighter, and literally there are videos of women going viral on TikTok. These other fighters, female fighters who've trained, remember, their whole lives to do this, their entire careers put on the line, literally walking away from this transgender woman, this guy, and they're literally going like this. And the whole point is to say, we are XX chromosomes. We are real women. We will not fight this man. And the last one I want to tell you about, this one actually blows my mind. And this is being touted as a huge win in transgender circles. ESPN reported transgender fighter Alana McLaughlin. So this was a couple years ago, but it's coming back up. Alana McLaughlin submits Celine Provost in an MMA debut, and of course. So this is just another example of a transgender athlete who basically walked into female sports and just crushed. Why? Because he's a guy. He's not female at all. And I think the crazy thing about this story as I was reading it was, here's a quote from the story. Quote, a former member of the U.S. Army Special Forces. This is a man who was in the Special Forces. He was in the military, right? McLaughlin is just the second transgender woman to fight in the MMA outside of Fallon Fox, who was the first, who was cage side watching this fight while this was happening. But I want you to just take a look at the photo. Okay, so this is the photo of Alana McLaughlin on the right with the pink hair. And I will just point out that to me, in no way does this look like a woman, this person at all. Like, you do not look like a woman. You do not present like a woman. You're not a woman. You are, in fact, a man who has walked into a female sport. So that's just a few of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention today. I think this is a huge deal. A lot of these things have gone undercover or have been alleged as, oh, this is transgender rights or this is rights. What this is really doing is it's hurting women and girls. it's actually causing women to have to deal with things like a traumatic brain injury for something that was not their fault. So this is just a few of the things I wanted to bring to your attention today. Have a great day, and as always, look back for more news on BKN Network.